warm out there. So if you like the heat, like my wife does, then that's great for you. For me, I think I'm going to melt. But we are glad that you're here. We do have some visitors with us. I want you to know that we're glad you're here, and you hope you come back and see us when you have the opportunity. In the book of Thessalonians, there's a situation Paul is dealing with. And that is, again, I'm going to sort of paraphrase the situation for you rather than read it to you, but there were some people that were telling the Christians that had lost loved ones that the people that were alive at that particular time were going to take their place. The people now alive that are faithful and those that have passed on aren't going to go to heaven because there's so many faithful people now that those that had died that were faithful before aren't going to get to go to heaven. And again, Paul's dealing with this nonsense. And he says, I will not have you ignorant, brethren, about those who are asleep, right, in Christ. And he goes on to detail what the second coming will be. And he says, those that are dead in Christ shall raise first. When Christ comes back, right, he's going to bring those that were dead with him. Right? And that will be called, meet him in the air. And then those that are alive are going to raise. Now, some people, like in those times, treat religion as if it's a zero-sum game. If you're not familiar with what that is, think of it like this. If we have a cake, right, like we have our meal, right, you have our dessert table that sits there. And I always go to the dessert table first because I want to make sure I get dessert, right? I want to make sure I get the desserts I want because there's enough people that you may eat the dessert I want. Now, I leave the good food, what you all call the good food, to you all, right? Because I won't go that first. But it's a zero-sum game. If I gain something, you're going to inevitably lose something. Well, religion's not like that. Simply because I gain something, you haven't lost it. But yet sometimes we treat religion as if it's a zero-sum game. We treat religion as if it's a secret. That if I tell anybody else, then they're going to go to heaven and I'm not. Or if somebody's somebody's really good, all of a sudden their behavior is a reflection on mine. If they're doing more work in the church, that somehow that's going to keep me from going to heaven and I don't like them because they're trying too hard. We treat religion as if you gain something, I've lost something. And that's not the way religion works. And unfortunately, sometimes we end up competing with others in the course of religion, and religion is not a competition. But sometimes we misunderstand. We misunderstand. Do I wish I was a better singer? Sure. I would love to sing better. Do I wish I was a better preacher? Absolutely. I wish I was a better preacher. Do I wish I was a better Bible class teacher? Absolutely. I wish I was better at all those things. But I shouldn't want to be better at those things so I can be better than someone else. Right? So I can be greater than Marshall Keeble was when he preached. Right? That's not the goal. In religion, I want you to consider for yourself, who are you competing with? Who are you competing with? And sometimes we get lost in the minutiae of the detail. In Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 through 2, the Hebrew writer says, wherefore seeing we are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight. Now think about that for a second. And the sin which does so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us. And I want you to think about that for just a minute. The picture that God gives about religion. Now he's phrased it like this. Religion is a race. It's a race that is set before us. And in this race, there are certain trials, there are certain tribulations that you're going to have to overcome to be successful in that race. But one thing God does not say is that you have to be the first to finish the race. It doesn't say you have to cross the finish line first. The goal of the whole race is simply to finish the race. It's to make it to the finish line. That's the goal. And I want us to think about that. In 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 7 to 8, Paul uses sports analogies all the time. But you notice this, he said, I fought the fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. Henceforth, there's laid up for me a crown of righteousness. But notice he goes on. And he said, which the Lord the righteous judge shall give me that day. But not only to me, but to all those who loved his appearing. You see, all of us are in, right? When we become a child of God, we enter the race. We enter the race, and the goal of the race is not to beat someone else. The goal of the race is to finish it. The goal of the race is to make it to the end successfully, to cross that finish line that God has given to us. But it says, let us not be desirous of vainglory, provoking one another, envying one another. You ever seen a situation where you're like, man, I wish I had that much money. Oh, man, I wish I had that kind of car. Oh, man, I wish my house was that big. And we just tend to dislike somebody that has something that we don't. Or somebody that's better off than we are in a situation. Well, again, in Christianity, we ought not to be that way. Because we need to understand that the race, I can't go over there for the video's purposes. The race is personal. It's not competitive. You're not competing against me for heaven. If I get to heaven, it doesn't mean you don't get to go. If everybody in the world that's alive today makes it to heaven, it doesn't mean the people that are born tomorrow are in any way going to be left out. The Christian race is a personal race. It's not a competitive one. And we need to stop thinking that I'm competing with so-and-so, or that this person over here, if they live the right kind of life, then somehow I'm less because they're more. Or because they're getting attention in the church house for doing something great, and they did something good for the church, that somehow makes me less. That's not how religion works. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1, again, the verse I just put up there. But again, the race that is set before us. You see, God has set before each individual person the race. And each individual's race is unique. But the rules remain the same to everyone's race. The rules haven't changed. But maybe the hurdles in that race are a little different. You have your own race to run. You may struggle with one thing while the person over here may struggle with something completely different. You may start out with more money than this person. This person may start out with better looks than you have. Right? Everybody's race is different. Everybody's obstacles are different in life. And there's things you'll have to overcome that I'll never have to. But the inverse is also true. There's things in my life I'll have to overcome that you won't. And that's the way that life works. And it's not a competition. And if we can stop thinking of it as a competition, then we can help each other along that path. Because God never said that I have to run this race alone. You can help me in my race, and I can help you in yours. 1 Corinthians 9:24, he says, know that you run in a race. Know ye not that they which run in a race run all, but one receives the prize. So run that you may obtain. There is a prize at the end of the race. And everybody wants to win the prize. But the great thing, there is an endless supply of prizes. Everyone can win. Everyone can achieve the ultimate goal if they run according to the 20 said to him, if I will that he tarry till I come, what is it to you? Follow thou me. Now this is the situation where we're talking about the one that's going to betray him. And he talks, and Peter asks him, Lord, what about this man that's going to betray you? And what did Jesus say about it? Don't worry about him. You worry about you. You're the one you need to worry about. Don't worry about the one that's going to betray you. You worry about you. Don't be that person. Don't be the one that betrays Jesus. Don't be the one that turns their back on Jesus. Don't worry about him. It's not your job to investigate to see who it is. That's not your job. Your job is to do the things that God has commanded you to do. So again, the Christian race is personal. It's not competitive. But too often times we quit. We quit because we don't think we measure up to so-and-so. That we don't measure up to who this person is. Or the way this person does it. Or I'll never be as good as so-and-so. And that should never be our motivation for stopping our worship to God. See, because the goal is faithfulness. It's not beating someone else. That's not the goal. Now, you ought to try to be the best you that you could possibly be. And the great thing about that is there's no pattern for you. It doesn't exist. Right? There's nothing. You're the only you that ever was. And so for you, you can always be the best you. You'll always be the unique person that you are. And you're not competing against someone else. You're not trying to beat someone else. You're not trying to overtake them. Paul said, I've fought the good fight. I've finished my course, my race. I have kept the faith. And that's what we ought to be considering when we're talking about religion. I ought to be concerned about me and my righteousness and my faithfulness to God. And doing my best for God. And not comparing myself to brother so-and-so. I can't tell you how many times I've invited people to church services. And they would say, well, so-and-so goes down there, and I'm already better than them. And if they're going to heaven, I'm fine. I know I'm going to heaven. Well, you see, now that's a problem. Right? Because the comparison is not to Brian. The comparison is to Jesus. When you can beat Jesus, then you can say you don't need him. When you're better than he is, then you can say that his blood is useless. When you can stay faithful for your entire life, when you can never commit a single mistake in your life, when you never sin, then you can say you don't need Jesus. Until then, you do. And no matter how good or how bad someone else is, that doesn't help you go to heaven. You know, I think my dad is a pretty good guy. As far as I can tell, he's a faithful man of God. And my mom is a faithful lady, a faithful woman of God. But you know what's not going to happen on the day of judgment? God's not going to look at me and say, Kevin, you have some great parents. Come on into heaven. It's not what he's going to say. He's not going to say it. He's not going to say, you had a great wife. Here, Kevin, you can come to heaven. Because I can't go to heaven on her coattails or my parents. But the inverse of that's also true. I have 2 rotten stinkers of kids. No, I have great kids. But let's say I did have 2 rotten kids. God is not going to be like, hey, Kevin, you know, I know you did what I asked you to do in raising your kids, but they turned out horrible. Sorry. You don't get it. See, I don't go to heaven based on what someone else does. I go to heaven or hell based on what I do. I'm saved or I'm lost based on my own actions, not someone else's. God's not going to say, you know what, Kevin, you were pretty good, but Brian was a little bit better. Sorry, Brian gets to come in and you don't. That's not how this works. Right? It's not about beating. The goal is not about beating anyone. Matthew 25, his Lord said to him, well done, you good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over 2 things, I'll make you a ruler over many things. Remember that story about the parable of the talents? Each one was given according to their ability. One was given 10, 5, 2, whatever, 1. And what did God expect back? Did he expect the 1-talent man to bring back 10? No, he didn't expect the 1-talent man to bring back 10. He expected the 1-talent man to get a return on his investment. That's what he wanted. Did he expect the 10-talent man, right? If the 10-talent man comes and he brings back 1, do you think the Lord is pleased? Well, let's say he brought back 2. The answer is, of course he's not pleased. Why? Because he had the ability to do better. He had the ability to do more, but chose not to. You see, the competition is not with the 1-talent man. And the 10-talent man, if he had brought back 2, he couldn't look at the master and say, look, I brought you back 2. He only brought back 1. He said, yeah, but you started with 10. He only started with 1. And that's what we need to realize when we're looking at our Christian life and our Christian walk. I can't look at somebody else's life and judge my faithfulness by what they do and how they act and how they live. I have to judge it by the ultimate standard. And again, that's the standard of God. Moreover, it requires in stewards that you be found faithful. See, the blessing that God has given to us is that everybody has the capability of going to heaven. I'll say that again. Everybody has the capability of going to heaven. God does not put a race in front of you that you can't finish. He does not put a trial in front of you that you cannot overcome. But we're going to have to be willing to put in the effort to do it. We have to be willing to put in that maximum effort to reach the goal. And sometimes, we're called peaking. I watched I'm making fun of them for their TikTok, their Dr. TikToks back there, telling me TikTok told them that the Alanis will kill you. But I watched a few TikToks, and I saw this race that this guy, he was running, he's ahead of everybody. And he was doing so great. I mean, he was like probably 10 people length, right? 10-person length in front of somebody. He turns around, starts looking back, trips over, speaking, loses. What happened? Now, if he had just kept his eyes forward, there's a better than even chance he finishes first. There's a better than even chance he wins that race. But what happened? He got caught. He got caught watching the other people. And sometimes we're better. We're more able than those people that we're comparing ourselves to. And if we're not very careful, we end up watching them rather than watching the goal. We end up, instead of watching for Christ, watching for the requirements that God has put before us. But notice what he said, looking to Jesus. the author and the finisher of our faith. You see, Jesus is the ultimate guide by which we judge ourselves. The life that Jesus lived. That's our ultimate guide. I can't get there, but my job is to get as close to that as I can. My job is to be just as good a person as I can possibly be. Now, what that looks like for me may be a little different from what it looks like for you. My abilities may be a little better than yours. They may be a little worse than yours. But rest assured, everyone has the ability to do something. They have the ability, number one, to go to heaven. They have the ability to do some work for God. Philippians chapter 3, verse 14, Paul said, I press forward toward the prize. Right? I'm constantly pressing toward that prize. But if I'm constantly watching what this person is doing, and I'm only doing what this person does, I'm saying, all right, I know Brian's a pretty good guy, so I'll just watch what Brian does, and I'll do what Brian does. And if I do what Brian does, then I'm pretty sure I'll go to heaven. Well, that doesn't work. Right? That's not the goal. The goal is to do as good as I can, not to do as good as Brian can. It may be better than Brian, but it also may be less, given the different abilities that we have. In Matthew chapter 14, verse 30, it's that same idea. When we take our eyes off Jesus, and when we stop focusing, we try to compete with each other. How many of you all, and again, be honest, how many of you all sometimes when you talk about the congregation you go to, right, what's buried here? You sort of play it off like, oh, we're just a small little congregation. You ever said that to somebody? As a justification that, well, we're not a big church, we're not a big congregation. It's sort of like, we're not very big. As if it's a competition. As if a congregation that's very large is somehow superior to one that is not as large. And yet we will say it almost like it's not as important as the congregation down the road. Right? And I've also heard people in smaller congregations denigrate larger ones, as if, well, we're being small is superior to being large, because with all those people you come with more problems. Well, that's true. But they're also able to do more good, because they have more resources to do things. You see, it's not a competition between Woodbury and Elkins, right? I don't know which one's bigger. I assume Woodbury's bigger than us. But it's not a competition. If Woodbury goes to heaven, doesn't mean Elkins doesn't, right? If the member's there, because one is big and the other is small, it doesn't make one superior or inferior to another, and we need to stop comparing ourselves amongst ourselves. We, as a congregation here at Elkins, need to be the best congregation that we could possibly be. And do the things that God expects us to do. And stop worrying about what everybody else is doing. Stop worrying about all those things, because in the end, those things don't matter. Heaven is not handing out medals for beating other Christians. Right? That's just not how it works. It's a great job. Right? We all get to heaven and say, all right, Kevin, come here. Kevin, you were a better preacher than Luke was. Good job. Here's your medal. Brian, awesome job on that song leading, buddy. Kevin couldn't do it. There's your medal. That's not how God works. That's not what you're going to be praised for. On the day of judgment, you're going to hear one of two things. Well done, my good and faithful servant. Enter into the joys of heaven. Or, depart from me, you who work iniquity. I never knew you. Again, I just want to hear good job. I want to hear good job, my servant. I don't care if your mansion's bigger than mine. I just want one. Okay? I just want one. As long as I get one, then you can have 1,000 times bigger than mine. I just want one. But let me put this in front of you. If we stop competing with each other, or competing against each other, and start competing with each other, helping one another along the path, don't you think your life will be a little bit easier? Don't you think if you stop looking down on one group and stop comparing yourself to this other group, that you would be more joyful? My dad told me early on, he said, son, I don't care what you do for a job. I don't care what you do for a job. He said, you want to be a garbage man? That's fine. Be a garbage man. Be the best garbage man that you can be. You want to be a ditch digger? Fine. Dig ditches. But be the best ditch digger that you can be. And his main point was simply this. The goal is not to be better than someone else. The goal is to be the best that you can be. And that's what God wants for you. He wants you to be the best you can be. And he doesn't expect things that are out of your reach, that are out of your control. He expects you to do the very best that you can. Again, Philippians 3:14 reminds us that we're pressing toward the mark. Again, once we do cross that finish line, God's not going to say, who did you beat? Who were you better than? Who were you more faithful than? He doesn't care, because it doesn't make a difference. But in order to win the race, in order to finish the race, we have to start. And the starting point of that race is becoming a child of God. Is being adopted into the family of God, repenting of your sins, confessing Jesus Christ as His Son, being baptized for the forgiveness of those sins. Right? That's the start of the race. And all the obstacles in the middle, that's just faithfulness. That's just trusting that God has your best interest in mind and following the plan that He has for mankind in His Word. If you're here and you're subject to invitation, I encourage you to come and we stand and always stand. Why do you wait, dear brother? Oh, why do you tarry so